2091 weight variation, probably the most exciting test that you'll get to do with us all semester. What is it? What should I need to know about it? How difficult is this going to be? Process-wise, very simple. If you know how to use a balance, then guess what? You're all set. So hands-on, sock it to me, because the only thing that we need here is a balance in the laboratory to do the job that I need to be done in 2091. Math-wise, though, that could be a doozy if we're not very careful. Now, when I say procedure's easy, it is. You weigh some dietary supplements, you put them on the balance, you record the masses, and you report them. The problem is that what if this test begins to fail? Oh, I hope you're not failing the 115 class. What goes on? What needs to happen? That is where people begin to cringe, and we hope that's not you. So I first need to tell you that this 2091 is weight variation, but it really only deals with dietary supplements. That's it. Actually, if you take a look at the USPNF listing of weight variation, it says 2091 weight variation of dietary supplements. So that means if a tablet or a prescription medication has been given to you, maybe it's a cholesterol drug, maybe it's a high blood pressure drug, who knows what it is? It's a pill for your big toe because it hurts so bad, and this is going to be the next greatest thing that's going to be out on the market. This does not apply to those particular types of medications. It really is only a dietary supplement. So what is a dietary supplement? Well, a lot of times these are going to be things like vitamins. So vitamin A, vitamin B, vitamin D, vitamin C, all of these fall under the world of dietary supplements because that means you are taking it in order to maybe improve something like your immune system. Maybe you're taking it because you want to sleep better at night. Maybe you're taking it because you've read that this dietary supplement actually makes you think a little bit more and makes you smarter. So you want to pass 115 and you need that dietary supplement. So you order it off of Amazon and they ship it to you. That is what a dietary supplement is all about. So these are vitamins plus others. And when I say others, that could mean any type of herbal kind of supplement that you might see, something like glucosamine or ginseng or elderberry. All of those things are out there on the consumer market, on the consumer shelf. You don't need a doctor. You don't need a nurse. You go through the vitamin aisle. You take a look at everything on the inside. Those are going to be dietary supplements. Multivitamins are dietary supplements. So if it falls under the dietary supplement world, then 2091 is going to apply to it. If it is written and prescribed by a doctor, it probably is not a weight variation of a dietary supplement test that we're going to perform on that type of medication. So again, dietary supplements is where it's at. So I want to show you a little video, just a little bit of video. That's all it takes, just a few minutes, and that is it, nothing more. And this is from the FDA, the Food and Drug Administration. I hope you didn't get that question wrong on a test when you saw it online. But we're going to take a look at what this dietary supplement overview is going to be. So please bear with me. Let me turn up the volume, sit back, and enjoy the show.
Multivitamins, vitamin D, fish oil, vitamin C, calcium, and vitamin B12. These are some of the most commonly used dietary supplements on the market. Dietary supplements might help you improve or maintain your overall health, and some may help you meet your daily requirements of essential nutrients. But they may also come with risks. When you take too much of a dietary supplement, combine supplements, or take supplements with prescription or over-the-counter medicines, you can have a bad reaction, also called an adverse event. And if you take dietary supplements instead of prescribed medicines, the results potentially could be life-threatening. If you experience an adverse event, stop using the product and seek medical care. You should also submit a report to FDA through the Safety Reporting Portal at safetyreporting.hhs.gov. FDA is not authorized to approve dietary supplements before they are sold to the public, so it is particularly important for you to report adverse events because this information helps the agency identify unsafe products and take action to protect the public. Before deciding to purchase or take a dietary supplement, talk to a healthcare professional, your doctor, a nurse, a dietitian, or your pharmacist. Ask if the supplement is right for you, if you're taking the right amount, and if it's okay to combine a supplement with any medications you're currently taking. Learn more at FDA's website.
All right, guys, I hope that you learned a little bit about dietary supplements in that little short, sweet 1 minute and 46 second video. Wasn't that very refreshing? 1 minute and 46 seconds. I wish that Tracy would record lectures that were 1 minute and 46 seconds. So that way I could watch this and get everything done on time, every time, right? Well, it's not going to happen, folks, not in here. So dietary supplements. First, what are they? We already talked about them. These are vitamins and anything over the counter that you're going to find in that area. Many, many different options. Many different products that are out there available to you, and many different markets that are, or companies that are going to market this type of material. So if you were very clever, what you found out in that video is that the FDA does not regulate or provide authority to release these things onto the market. Oh no. So that means I could open up my garage and I could go in and make some type of crazy powder and be like, hey, if you drink this powder and put it in a little bit of water, it's going to make you so pretty. That is a dietary supplement. That means I do not have to go through the channels of the FDA. I don't have to get through the approval like a prescription medication would. And then I could just pump out a consumer product and say, here you go. I'm not claiming that it's actually fixing a problem. I'm just saying, well, it could, but these claims are not based on any type of FDA regulations. And I make some money and I become a millionaire and I can retire a little early. So I want you to keep this in mind when you do go down that supplement aisle and you purchase something like vitamin C. Let's say that you want to boost your immune system and you have read that vitamin C will actually help you do it and you will never get sick as long as you take enough vitamin C. Oh, okay, well, I'm going to fall for that and I'll go to the over-the-counter area of the grocery store or Walmart or Target and I get any of the vitamin C tablets. It doesn't matter. There's probably going to be so many choices of vitamin C there, and I'm going to buy that bottle, and I'm going to say, this is safe and this is effective. But the problem is that no testing has been done with the FDA. No clearance has been given, probably, unless it has a little USP stamp on it. So I don't really kind of know what I'm buying. Yes, that's exactly what I'm saying to you. Oh, and if you purchase like a weird cheap version because that company is selling it to you cheaper, then it's safe, it's effective, right? I can't really guarantee it, sorry. So keep that in mind the next time that you load up on these dietary supplements. And then what begins to happen, not only that, you are putting your full faith, trust in a company that has made a supplement for you. But in addition, a lot of people are saying, oh, well, this is a dietary supplement. It's not like a prescription medication. Then I can take as much as I want. And if I take more, it works better. So if I take that powder and I drink and eat more of that powder and maybe snort it up my nose, who knows, then I'm going to be even prettier than what the label claims, right? And the answer is, no, actually, it could really be a health concern, if anything. You could actually be doing damage to your liver or to your kidneys or to your heart. You could actually be harming yourself in the long run versus actually helping yourself by taking the dietary supplement. So, for instance, let's say this vitamin C tablet is a 1,000 IU, which are kind of the units that they go by. And they're like, hey, well, it tells me on the label to take 1 a day. So I'm going to take 20 a day because that's 20 times more effective and I will never get sick. Bye-bye COVID. Bye-bye flu. You will never touch me because I've got 20 capsules of vitamin C swimming around in my system. I hate to tell you, but you probably could get COVID the next week if you decide to take 20 or 30 or maybe even the whole bottle of vitamin C. I don't know. But overall, I hope that I've hit the message home. Dietary supplements are not heavily regulated. Dietary supplements do not go through the same channels that prescription medication does. And if they want to, they can. And there are tests that are there for them. And one of those tests is basically little old simple innocent weight variation. Oh gosh, he said that sarcastically. What does that actually mean? What are we getting ready to see ourselves into? Well, there's a chance that you could have done this nice little quick lab in the class already. If so, you know what expecting. You know what's going to happen here. You know what I'm getting ready to discuss. But there is a chance that I probably did not go through the full general chapter of 2091. And there's also a chance that you probably received something that ended up passing in the end, and that you didn't have to go through the extra channels that you would go through in a real working laboratory. So let's see what this is all about. Weight variation. What does that mean? Weight. Okay, well, weight is mass, and mass probably means grams. So I'm going to have a balance for this general chapter 2091. And I'm going to have to learn how to use the balance if I don't know how to use the balance. Oh, please, I hope that you know how to use a balance already. If you've made it this far, I hope that you know how to use a balance. And then it's variation. So variation basically means change, right? And we know that nothing is perfect. I'm not perfect. You're not perfect. The balance is not perfect. We know these issues are at play, and we know there's maybe some things that we can do about it in the stat world to help this kind of problem. But we also know that when these dietary supplements are manufactured, they are not going to be perfect. So there's instrumentation, machinery that's going to be needed to blend and to mix and to make these dietary supplements. And it doesn't really matter what goes on, but there's going to be some variation. There's going to be variations in the weights, variations in the active ingredient, if that's what you want to call it. There's going to be some changes. And the issue here is like, okay, we know it's not perfect, and we know things are going to change, but how much is actually allowed? That is what this weight variation is all about. So medications should be made the same way every single time. In theory, yes, that's what goes on. Dietary supplements should be made the same way every single time. In theory, yes, that's what goes on. But in actual real life, you're going to see some variation. You're going to see some masses that are not going to be exactly the same, and that's normal. We're okay with that. But there's got to be a threshold. There has to be a limit. Like, this is what we want to see, and these are the percentages that we are after. Otherwise, we're going to say it fails the weight variation test. So, the big question, how much? How much? That's what we're after. So, we need to figure out what these percentages are going to be. First off, I want to talk about capsules. This is a picture of a capsule. If you did not know what a capsule was, dietary supplements can be manufactured in terms of a capsule. And these are typically kind of, you would call them plastic coating, even though they're not really plastic. But you would call them this kind of plasticky coating looking tablet. And it looks like there's always one half that fits inside of the other half to make this capsule out of. And these capsules can easily be taken apart just by grabbing each end and pulling them apart from each other. And if you pull those capsules apart from each other, what you'll find out is that there's probably some loose powders on the inside. And that's the actual dietary supplement piece, or the prescribed medication piece, the active ingredient. That is what we're going to find in those capsules. So prescription medication can be made this way. Dietary supplements can be made this way. But that is the proper definition of a capsule. A capsule is basically two halves that get sandwiched together. And on the inside, we have some of this powder-like material, most of the time, that can be found on the inside. Very loosely packed, and that can be dumped out quite easily, right? I can do this in a lab. You can do this at home. It doesn't really matter. If you've got capsules laying around, absolutely go for it, all right? So there's going to be a part of the monograph that we're going to find in 2091, and it's going to say capsules right up here at the very top. So we need to talk about capsules, and we need to talk about how they're going to be different than other types of dietary supplements that we're going to see. So the introduction says, the following tests provide limits of the permissible variations in the weights of individual tablets, capsules, or chewable gels. Oh, whoa, change, because I see highlighted and I see triangles. Looks like that was updated in 2019. Expressed in terms of the allowable deviation from the average weight of the sample. Ooh, makes me sound smart. Separate procedures and limits are described herein for capsules and uncoated tablets and coated tablets and chewable gels. Alert, 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 change, that are intended for use as dietary supplements. So we need to figure out what to do with hard shell capsules. So if I get something that looks like this, and it is a hard shell capsule that can be taken apart, then by definition that's a capsule. This is how I would perform the weight variation. So number one, part one, we weigh 20 capsules individually. So I'm going to have a data sheet, and it's going to be my difficult job, my very difficult job, to go to a balance and record 20 masses. And those 20 masses are coming from 20 capsules that someone has poured out into a little container or a weigh boat and told me, go mass them, please. Okay, not a big deal. I have my data sheet in front of me. I put each capsule on the weigh boat, and then I record the mass that shows up. It's as easy as that. Then it says calculate the average weight. Ooh, do I get to use Excel? Because that's going to make my work very easy. If I can use Excel for this calculation, I type in equal AVERAGE, open the parentheses up, highlight all the data, and calculate an average. So I would say, based on the online assignments and in preparation of any type of test, go to Excel and remember how to use Excel to calculate an average for you. Because there's a chance that you might get 20 numbers, and you'll have to calculate the average of those 20 numbers, because that's part of this requirement for 2091. All right. And then the next question is each of those masses that you obtained within 90 to 110% of the average weight. So what we are going to have to do is another calculation. It's not really showing up on the screen yet, but it will be. But it looks like I need to calculate an average first, and then I need to take 90% of that average, and I need to take 110% of that average. And that gives me a window. And what I'm looking for is the capsule, that individual capsule mass. Does that individual capsule mass fit within that 90 to 110% window? Right? So does it fail or does it pass? So some criteria here. First, it says is each. Oh my God, there's no room to mess up. I have 20 capsules. I have massed 20 capsules. I have averaged the 20 capsules. And each one of those capsules needs to fit within 90 to 110% of the average. And if just one of those fail, well, we're not going to be able to complete the test. We're going to have to do extra. We're going to have to go above and beyond in order to do this test the right way. So what we really hope is that we cross our fingers and I say, please, please, please watch out for me, because I want this test to work and I want all of these capsules to pass the first time around so I don't have to do any more work. Please. That's what I do. And if all 20 are fitting within that window, great. Great. You're finished with the capsule test. Absolutely no more that you have to do. If one of those fail, oh, we got some issues. All right, so how would we perform this math? I'm going to give you an example here. The math is already somewhat worked out for you, but I'll at least go through the motion to describe kind of what led up to this point. So let's say that I took 20 capsules and I keyed in the 20 masses into an Excel spreadsheet and I calculated an average. And the average is 0.6873 grams. All right, so not a big deal. That looks pretty good, 0.6873. And that is my average, and this is what's going to set my threshold, and my threshold is 90% to 110% of that number. So what would go on in Excel maybe, or if I had a hand do some of these calculations, I need an acceptable window. I need a window that's going to say, here's your minimum and here's your maximum. As long as your capsules fall within the window of your minimum and maximum, you're good. There's nothing else for you to do. So how do I calculate that window? Well, I take 90%, and 90% is 0.90, right? I do this by taking 90 divided by 100. And when I do that, I get 0.9. And then 110%, you can be a little under and you can be a little over. That's what this means. So what is 110% as a decimal? Well, that's 1.10. So again, I'll take 110, divide it by 100, and I get 1.10. So what happens is if I want to determine the window of acceptability, where these things are going to pass, I'll take 0.9 times the average, and I take 1.10 times the average. And this will give me a minimum. Nothing should be below 90, and this will give me a maximum. Nothing should be greater than 110%. So based on these values, if you key this into a calculator or get Excel to do that calculation for you, 90% of 0.6873 is 0.6186. And 110% of 0.6873 is 0.7560. So 10% lower and 10% higher is basically what we calculated here. So this gives me the window, and I hope that each capsule weight that I have recorded on a sheet of paper, I hope that each one of them, if this is my number, will fit within this window. Now, that window is going to be based on your average, and your average will be different than everybody else's. Your average will be different depending on the types of capsules that you are given. That is not a concrete number, of course, right? That window is based on the average of all the capsules that have been provided to me in a lab environment for me to write down my data and calculate an average out of. So 90% of your average and 110% of your average gives you your window that you need to make sure things are passing or things are failing. So if all of these fit within that window in this example, if it fits within that window, we are good. But once more, you'll have to do your own math because capsules weigh differently. And this is just one example of many. So if one of them fails, oh God, no, what do I do? If one of them fails, look at the garbage that we're going to have to go through. I'm not advising to make up numbers because legally you are binding to those numbers that you put on the report, and you could be found in contempt in the court of law for making up data, and you could be penalized, and you can be fined, and you can be thrown in prison, even though those people at the IBT didn't get thrown in prison. All right, but if one of these tablets or capsules, if one of these capsules fail, then you got to do part 2. All right, so let's see what part 2 is. Part 2 says use those 20 capsules that you used in part 1 and remove the interior contents. Oh my God. Oh my God. What this means is that I have to separate the capsule. And I have to dump all of the contents on the inside of that capsule into a weigh boat or something, because they want me to remove the interior contents. So I'm going to have to sit there with all 20, and I'm going to have to take them apart. When I say take them apart, this is exactly what I'm talking about. I'm going to have to take those capsules apart. I'm going to have to click, 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 dump, 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 and get all of that free, I hope, free loose powder out of those capsules for me to do this part of the test. If one of them fails, this is what I got to do. Remove as much as possible with a small brush or pledget of cotton. Pledget. Who uses the term pledget? Well, the USP does. Look, folks, I didn't make it up. This was not a Tracy term. Look, right there it is. So what is a pledget of cotton? This has got to be a real thing. I've never heard of this before. What on earth is that? Well, it looks something like this. It's just a little bitty square cotton, typically pressed a little bit, and it gives you a nice little kind of tiny piece of cotton that you can cram up into a capsule and kind of get it up in there and get all that kind of loose packed material out. If you need help, you're more than welcome to use that. If you need help, you're more than welcome to use a small brush, because it does tell me that in the USP monograph. But the object is to get all of the loose powder out in some form or in some fashion. Once all that free powder is removed, then I need to weigh the empty shells individually. Oh my God. Now I've got to take the capsule shell that I've already spent all that time getting all the loose powders out. And now I'm going to take the shells of them and I'm going to weigh the shells. So more data blanks that I'm going to have to write down. 20 measurements, because I got to do it with all 20. The next part of the monograph will then say, calculate the net weight of the contents. So they are telling me to take the capsule in the original form. You have that mass already. Now you've taken that capsule apart, you've dumped out all of the insides, and you've got this empty shell that you have a mass for. So you're going to take those two values and you're going to subtract them. The empty shell from the total mass. And this will give you what they're calling the net weight. So the net weight is the net weight of the contents that's on the inside. That is the appropriate method that they want you to do and follow. So we got to follow those directions or we don't have valid data. Next is that we are going to calculate a new average, and that new average is the net of the contents. So those contents, the net weight, I'm going to have those differences all onto a spreadsheet. And I'm going to calculate the average of those differences. Not the average of the capsule. We already did that. It failed. That's why we're working in part 2, right? So now what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to really focus on the inside contents of the capsule. So now that I know the mass of the contents of the capsule, I need the average of the contents of the capsule. So I'm trying to eliminate maybe the variation that's getting attributed by the capsule, because that capsule, there could be some issues with it, right? And if there's issues with the capsule, then great. This problem or this system is going to take care of that. We are eliminating the mass of the capsule here, and we're only focused on the contents on the inside. That's actually the most important thing. I want to make sure there's no weight variation in the contents. Maybe, just maybe, the person that made the capsule messed up, screwed up in some form or fashion. That's the part or purpose of part 2. So then we're going to determine the difference in the net mass and the average of the net mass. Same concept as before, but now we're focused on the net values. The criteria says not more than 2 of the net masses should be greater than 10% of the average net. What? Is he talking a foreign language? That's probably what's going through your head right now. Ooh, well, take the capsule minus the shell, and that's a net mass, and then that net mass is going to have an average net mass, and then that average net mass is going to be compared with the net mass, and then we hope that no more than 2 net masses are greater than 10% of the average net mass. That makes perfect sense. Yes, that does. And no case is different than 25%. Whew, what? Okay, I'm telling you, I'm not making this up, folks. It's right here in black and white. I mean, oh gosh. Weigh 20 intact capsules individually and determine the average weight. The requirements are met if each of the individual weights is within the limits of 90 and 110. Please, oh please, oh please, oh please, let it be, let it be, let it be. I don't want to go anymore. I don't want to do anything, any extra work. I don't want to go into this next paragraph. If that piece passes, my entire thing passes. Woohoo! Yay! All right, if not all of the capsules fall within the aforementioned limits. Now, here, look, if not all, oh, crap, just one will do it. One rotten apple. Within the aforementioned limits, weigh the 20 capsules individually, taking care to preserve the identity of each capsule, and remove the contents of the capsule with the aid of a small brush or a pledget of cotton. Weigh the empty shells individually and calculate for each capsule the net weight of its contents by subtracting the weight of the shell from the respective gross weight. Determine the average net content from the sum of the individual net weights. Then determine the difference between each individual net content and the average net content, and the requirement is met if not more than 2 of the differences are greater than 10, and in no case the difference is greater than 25. Folks, we're going to have to work on this. I mean, this is just what I discussed, and it was a foreign language. I know that. That's just the way it sounds. And then this is exactly what I just read as verbiage from the USPNF, and it probably is just as nasty, if not more confusing. So we're going to have to take some time. We're going to have to flesh out what really are they talking about other than little pledgets of cotton. What exactly are they talking about in this particular type of test? So that's what we're going to pick up with the next lecture video. So come back and see me. We need to talk about the math that goes on with the capsule division that we are doing and emptying out all the contents. I promise once you see an example problem, it might make a little bit more sense. And notice I said might. That's the key word.